Well, thanks for staying with us. That's the next conversation we're having. It's a season of giving. The holidays are the season of giving. Giving love, giving thanks, giving things. We'll hear more about that as the time unfolds. But if you cast your mind back, you would remember how it felt to receive gifts from your parents as a child. It only takes a moment to look into a child's eyes and see the joy the season brings. Where are we going? What are we doing? What are we eating? Some will argue that despite the consumerism, the season really brings out the best in us, in people. The season may also lead one astray. It's all too easy to get so caught up in the good feelings of the system, in the season, that we lose sight of the point. Giving is not about good feelings. So, what are the thoughts we need to have in performing our acts of giving this season? That's why we have a lady and a gentleman with us this morning. Gloria Adaba is a personal development coach, as well as Pastor Abiodun Bamidele, who is of the Leaders Place Word Assembly. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Ladies first, so let's go there. When we talk about giving, the natural thinking is about giving money, giving food, giving gifts. I don't want to call them palliatives, but when we talk about giving, it's giving things. Is that all there is to it? Is there any more to the giving than to get something?
Thank you for that question, and thank you for having me. There are two parties when it comes to giving. There is the giver, there's the receiver. So on the part of the giver, there's an act of sacrifice. Because even if you receive something for free, it did cost somebody something. So there's an act of sacrifice on the part of the giver. There's also the motive with which the giver gives. Why is that person giving? Why are you giving? Why am I giving? Am I giving as an act of love or an act of a show? So motive is very important, and the giver should also know that there is sacrifice on their part. The receiver also has a part. The part of joy, like you talked about the children. When you receive something, you're happy, especially when it's not expected. So there's that part of it also. And then there's also the part of gratitude on the part of the receiver. So it also gives the giver that motivation or that encouragement that I have done well because you've shown gratitude as a receiver.
Pastor Bamidele.
You know, I agree with Gloria 100%. I would only like to add that there's still something that should still be in that value chain, and that is the word value itself. Because, you know, while I agree with all she said, 100%, what exactly am I giving is also another matter. Because sometimes people see this period as an opportunity to unbundle all the things
Clutter.
that are no longer useful, those things I don't need anymore. Sometimes it can be painful for you to see people giving out what they can no longer use. Not because they now have so much, but because that thing has lost quality and it has lost value.
To them or to the person receiving it?
To the person given. The person given now. This is no longer useful. Of course, that is relative. Because what is not useful to me can be an excitement to the other person.
Absolutely.
But when you allow value to drive what you do, for instance, in the church that I lead, when we want to give out clothing, everybody knows that you need to present that cloth in a way that, you know, projects honor to the person receiving it. Not something that is dirty, torn, and all of that. So value must also be in context, because what I'm doing is not just a show of charity. I'm identifying with a brother, I'm identifying with a friend, I'm identifying with someone who is also created in the image and the likeness of God. So what I also give is also important. So that's why I will only add value, you know, to the...
There's something that you said that I will also want to take up with her, but let's start from there. You said giving is not just an act of charity.
That's right.
it's an act. What else is it?
Okay. You know, at the end of the day, charity, just like she said, can be driven by so many things. Number one of them can be show. I just want people to know that let people call me a man that is charitable, is a philanthropist. But beyond that, giving should be an avenue for you and I to initiate a sustainable system of sharing love, sharing care, selling hope, and selling comfort. Identifying the fact that life is not just all about me, I, and myself.
Absolutely.
I think all of this, if it is lost in the garment of giving, the essence is lost. So it's not a show activity. No.
Okay. You want to speak to that as well?
Yes, I just want to take that key word, and I actually thought about it before coming, which is sustainability.
That's right.
There's sustainability in giving. Yes, it's a season of giving, right? But it should come from something that has become habitual.
That's right.
It shouldn't just be within, oh, it's December, it's time for me to give. It should be something that I do every day, and I do it freely. So that's what I will take from what he said, and just add on that it should be a lifestyle, such that when we get to this season, it becomes like breathing.
Okay, but you know that when people give most of the time, especially individuals, philanthropists, as he mentioned,
Absolutely.
they are identified philanthropists because they are known to be philanthropists, and they are known to be philanthropists because they give to people. Now, so how do we dichotomize, whether as onlookers or as beneficiaries? How do we dichotomize? How do we differentiate between giving as a show or giving as a mark of identifying with the comfort and convenience of a needy generation?
Well, I would say that motive is something that is not seen. It's intangible. And if you're known as a philanthropist, fine. It's for you to keep that motive based on the act of love, not on an act of show. Because at some point, there is the temptation that becomes, oh, it's time for me to give again. But every time you come to give, see it as an opportunity and a privilege, because the dice or the coin would have been turned around and you would have been the receiver. And it's just an opportunity and a privilege that you are on the seat of the giver. So always see it as an opportunity to bless someone, to put a smile, to give joy to someone else. That should drive your motive at every point in time, deliberately.
But, you know, in terms of this whole giving for show or
Yes.
giving for, sincerely thing, there are people who point at politicians who give with the hope to receive votes or stuff like that. I don't know how you see that. What would you want to say to that?
It's when we were talking with Pastor before coming in here, we talked about leadership. And leadership is not dictatorship or ruling over people. Leadership is something that you do from leading yourself, first and foremost. And when you do that, if giving has been, like I said, your lifestyle, it's been something you've been doing. At some point, you'll be recognized for it, whether we like it or not. It can be seen as a show for someone else, but you know it's a part of you, even when no one is there. So that leadership is more than a position. It's a lifestyle. It's something that you inculcate. And if you are such that even when people are not looking, you are a giver, it comes easy for you. And if you being voted into office, you get voted there, and then when you get there, you flip. It's like, okay, that was really a show. It wasn't something that was natural for you.
But that doesn't end the cycle. Because people have these needs, they will always be happy to receive. I mean, you want to speak to that? Yeah. My apologies. They will also always be happy to receive from anyone who wants to give to them, irrespective of the motive.
Absolutely.
You're correct. And you know, while you were talking to her earlier, I just remembered a story, a true life story. Growing up, we had this woman living very close to us who complained bitterly to my mom. Without that complaint, we wouldn't have known what really happened. And what was the complaint? Now, a supposedly wealthy person in the community was having the wedding of his daughter. So this woman went out of her way to support that, event financially. But it was what happened thereafter that indicated what was the driving force. What was she complaining to my mom about? He said, I didn't know that this man is this stingy. When she did so, I gave this much. Now that I'm having the burial of my mother, see how much he has given me. So it became so clear that that initial giving was, so to speak, in quote, an investment. Waiting to reap. Because I have sized up this person. If I give him 10, in my moment of need, he should be able to give me 50. That didn't happen. So eventually, the motive came to play. Because you were asking, how do we know the motive? I would say that it is only God that can tell. But there are a few things you can see around people that seems to show us what drives them. For instance, if you're someone who will never give, except you have cameras around you, I think I will want to suspect that there's something driving you beyond love. If you are someone who, as you are giving with the left hand, you are placing a demand on the receiver with the right, I will be suspicious of the fact that there's something driving you beyond love. Now, coming to talk about what you said last, that people wouldn't care where it is coming from for as long as they are in need. And I want to say that it is that understanding that a lot of the leaders, so to speak, because some people that we call leaders really in this part of the world are not actually leaders, but that awareness, that knowing is what they are exploring to the maximum. They even want to ensure that the people stay at that point so that at every point in time, they need to look up to them. And like you said, a hungry man, we only gravitate towards that individual from whom he can get sustenance. But I want to say to everyone, listening to us this morning, sustenance is required at a point. Why? Because you need to be alive first before you want to determine, I want to do this and not. But that will not go too far. We are seeing events around the world that after some time, people will come to a realization that you are not giving them because you love them. You are giving them because you want to use them. And the time will come, when they hit the wall, they will always fight back. Check around the world. We are seeing all those indications.
Madam, so how do we move off from here? Because it's not just going to go away.
That's
It's
right.
a conversation that we're always going to have. Permit me to talk more from the, you talked about sustainability.
Yes.
In the development space, we always talk about inclusion. And when we talk about inclusion, we're talking about young people, women, and children. And these are the, generally largely vulnerable groups. So in this season of giving, any little gift will excite a child. It's a gift.
Yes.
Irrespective of where it's coming from or what the motive is, it is a gift.
Absolutely.
I am happy to receive it. What's the responsibility for parents here, irrespective of their social status?
That question is quite, because I'm a parent myself, and I give my children, like for me, giving is like a lifestyle, and they know, and this is where relationship comes in play. If you give your child something just to pacify the child and not really relate with the child, such that there is an understanding back and forth, your gift, after a while, they become immune to it. Let me explain what I mean. You do not relate with your child doesn't really know you, you're always busy, or have one thing or the other to do at every point. But whenever the child cries out for a need, you just say, okay, buy the latest iPhone. The child is excited for a while, but that need for relationship is something that should be like breathing for you as a parent, such that your gift would be meaningful the child doesn't now see it as, oh, I'm receiving something else again. I'm not going to get what it is that is most important. So when we talk about a season of giving, it shouldn't be in just the tangible, but the intangible, and it should be a way of life. So as a parent, as you develop that relationship with your child, when it climaxes to the point of Christmas, your gift would also mean a lot. But your time would even mean much more, because when you spend time with them, play with them, make them feel loved and closer to you, it would mean a whole lot to them.
I'll still come to the woman part, because there's something peculiar about that, because a friend has been sharing with me, and I feel it is something that needs a little bit more attention. We'll come to that one.
Okay.
So this last question and her response raised the question of what to give and who is giving.
All right.
What to give in terms of, is it tangible or intangible? We call it the season of giving. We call it the season of love. Well, there are those who also argue that we shouldn't really have a specific segment of our lives for giving or for showing love. But then the question of what to give comes to play. From what she said about me, when you give, for example, it will seem like the effect, the lifespan of that gift will only expire for as long
as the gift is there.
As the gift is there, or as the gift is exciting. Because if I had iPhone 1 now, and by tomorrow iPhone 2 is out, the lifespan of iPhone 1 has expired.
That's right. That's
so
right.
to speak, I'm just giving an example.
Perfectly correct.
So it then raises the question of what to give.
Good.
When is it appropriate to give the tangible things that people can touch? When is it appropriate, or how is it appropriate to give the intangible things that people may not be able to touch?
All right. Let me start these ways. Sometimes some years ago, I was in it was a relationship summit, and one Professor Wushika was sharing. She said something that was a statement I went home with that day. What did she say? She said, fathers who are listening to me in this meeting, cultivate the habit of dating your daughters. And she explained what she meant by that. Give her attention. Let her know she's a person of value. Let her know she's someone of dignity. Let her know I'm not just here to pay your school fees. I also want to be part of your life. Tell me those good stories. Also tell me the bad ones. She said once in a while, take her out and have a good time together. She said, why are you doing all of that? Such that the day one young man wants to come and dangle any of that before her, she's used to it. Love and affection is something that is not commonplace. In fact, a few days ago, I started leading my people to start praying against the spirit of depression and suicide. Why? In the last few weeks, I have seen some of my friends send to me videotapes of about 3-4 individuals taking their own lives. And I was explaining to them, I said, what makes that to happen? That happens when a man is pushed to a point where the conclusion about his life is that life is worthless. That person may not need all of the money. It's not a car that might be what that person needs. It might just be a little of attention. How are you doing today? I just discovered that you are not in your best of mood. And I want to also say to some of us that are highly blessed, we feel we are up there, that's your security man. That's your housemate. Don't forget that they are also someone's children. So love, care, attention, hope, all of these things are gifts that no amount of money can buy. When you are now proceeding to the tangible, you are not a stranger to that person. Because the person is used to you sitting down. Yes, you are high there, you are the boss and all of that. But the person is used to, so you say, come on, tell me what is happening. I just discovered you are not really. Some of us don't care. For as long as I am good, I don't care what happens. So those are things that I even think are much, much more important. And you said it earlier that we shouldn't be waiting for a season, really. Maybe a season like this should just help us to intensify what we have been used to. So that would be my thought.
Okay. Madam.
Can I just add something to what
Please,
Pastor just said?
Yes.
Every human being is a gift. Every human being is a gift. And like he said, some people, maybe because of societal or financial reasons, there are hierarchies. It doesn't make you more valuable than someone
That's
else.
right.
And it's very, very helpful, like he said, just re-emphasize the value of someone who is forgetting that they are actually valuable. And it brings me back to what you talked about, kind of weaponizing lack, and then when the gifts come, people rush to it. When someone is aware of their value, like you described about the daughter who is aware about her value, when people are aware about their value, they would be able to, not more just like the daughter, be able to say, you are dangling this thing, thank you for it, but I'll still see through what you need to do as a leader for me. So value, every human being is a gift. Every human being has value. And this season of giving, we should re-emphasize that value to people beyond the tangible.
I wanted to ask you about the feminine gender,
Yes.
giving to the feminine gender. I recently came across an information about, I think it's a United Nations championed sanitary pad poverty or something like that. That there are a humongous population of young ladies, young girls in schools who do not have access to those things.
Absolutely.
And I know that there are pockets of people in various aspects of our national lives who go out of their way to come up with these things to package and give to young ladies and all of that. How significant do you consider that to be?
It's personal. It's something that a woman would normally be ashamed to receive, but because of the lack of it, she would have to humble herself to receive it, depending on her financial status, or if she's identified to be amongst those who actually lack it. So it's actually personal, and there are some gifts also, when we talk about beyond what we see, that are also personal to ladies. And when you are giving a lady anything beyond what you can see, it depends again on the relationship you have. But speaking to what you just described, it has really become a major issue. We have lots of, because I have an NGO as well, it has become lots of people campaigning that women should have at least be able to take care of themselves every month.
How significant a challenge, well, for want of a better word, how significant a problem is it?
It's quite a significant problem. I'm also an environmentalist. We just came from a convention, a conference where the initiative are working on this plastic pad. It's actually reusable.
Okay.
Such that the environment, when it comes to disposal and everything, it has become very significant that even bodies that normally would probably focus on other things have discovered that this is becoming a problem in our society. And even where we have lots of displacement, maybe like IDP camps and poverty, areas that are quite poor and all that, it has also become a problem. And I would add that the lack of data it doesn't help issues, because we are not able to really, I can't really quantify, if asked the question, it can't really be quantified, but people that go around, philanthropists or NGOs that take their own time to see what are the common problems in this community, in that place. That's how we come up with the fact that this is a problem. But to be able to tell you that this is how significant, how big a problem it is difficult, but it is a major problem.
Well, Pastor Bamdele, we wanted to ask the question around who gives. We've talked about personal social responsibility, PSR. Absolutely. But then there is also corporate social responsibility, CSR.
Right. That's right.
We know that it has become an international discussion point in corporate organizations all over the world, such that if you're going to take a business decision, your CSR It's a critical
Most
business decision.
Absolutely.
And governments recognize it. They encourage corporate organizations to do it. And one way or the other, I mean, there's incentives for it
That's right.
in society. So how does that differ much? This is a little problematic. But how does that differ much from what the politician, or rather the intending politician, does? It's good. It's a fantastic thing that people do. I'm just trying for us to have perspectives to doing these things so that when corporate organizations are doing it, people understand and they do not just personalize it as just a corporate organization just giving them peanuts for, after, making profits.
You know, this matter you raise is a very complex one, depending on from which angle you are looking at it. I'll also share a practical, experience. Years ago, an organization was actually, in fairness, thinking about how to make life more comfortable for their staff who live in a particular community. And the organization offered, we will do the road from so-so point to so-so point. It was shocking to discover that the leaders of that community were placing, very ridiculous demand on the organization that before you do this for us, you will first give us this much in terms of cash. That shows that it's a true life story. It's just that I don't want to mention the organization. This organization pleaded and pleaded, they will not budge. They had to now do a longer route to take that same route through another community. That suggests to me that there is a disconnect. What the organization wants to do and how the community finds themselves, in the midst of it. There's a misplacement somewhere. And that shows that there's a wide gap of communication. There's a lot of communication gap. But that is on one side. The other side is also the fact that, truly, my brother, when you go out there on the street, the truth of the matter is that the level of lack out there, we can't discuss it on a platform like this. So people therefore see every opportunity, regardless of where it is coming from. Is it a corporate organization? Is it an individual? And all of that, as an opportunity to take as much of what they think belongs to them. We talk about my part of the national cake. That is at the national level. Even at the community level, the people still have that sensing of, you are in our community and you are making this much. So this is an opportunity for us to situate us. But let me say that it's almost becoming a statutory thing. That if you want to really be relevant and you want to operate at a certain level, CSR is not something you can joke with. But I just want to say to as many who are decision makers listening to us this morning, when you're doing that, don't always assume you know the need of the people. Engage them. Because there was also another story of people thinking that a community actually wants water, went there, gave them boreholes. Months later, they went back to discover that nobody was using the borehole. Now, it sounds funny, but it's a reality. They called the women in the community. We have given you water, but you are still going to the stream. They say, Oga, that time we go to the stream is the only time we have to really bond and share community gist of what has happened. So that water you have given us is only disturbing our social life. So there's a disconnect. So even when organizations want to do CSR, please don't just throw projects at people. Engage the community such that you are not giving them light when they need water, or you are giving them water when they need light. Let there be a page where everybody can glide on.
It sounds funny.
Very interesting.
But I've heard something similar as well.
Absolutely,
in some communities where the people say, okay, you need this. Yes, we agree that we need it. But before you do it for us, you have to pay us money. I still find that fantastic. But the bit that he talked about, connecting with the communities, as dicey and delicate as it is, it would seem like the corporates themselves are in a dilemma. We have to do this. We want to do this. But can we monetize infrastructure and give to the community, because that's the way it's sounding. You know, we cannot monetize infrastructure because we cannot document monetized infrastructure and consequently get tax rebate as a result of our CSR. So then it would seem like the corporates themselves are in a dilemma. The project is there, the vote for it is there, the community needs it, but then there are some elements in the community that are in the way.
Absolutely, and we heard that a whole lot. I've also heard another story of a community who refused to help someone because he's not from there. He was trying to do a borehole, a copper, got somewhere, wanted to do a borehole, and they refused. They said he's not from their place, he has a different motive. So we're talking about market research, really. And I want to reemphasize the issue of engaging the community. And it shouldn't be at like the peak of the season now or whenever you want to really do it at that point in time. It should come on gradually. Maybe visits to the community, developing a relationship, getting to understand the people of the community, the way they think, their lifestyle, and what it is they really need.
Isn't that an assumption that they don't know? I ask because sometimes the communities have their staff, their people, indigents, working in these corporate organizations. So it is part of the reason for bringing the members of the indigents of the community in the organization to understand what the community needs. So sometimes it's not because the engagement is not there, it's just maybe certain interests.
Well, that also feeds to the mindset of people. And those people, the community members that are within the corporate organization, might or might not really be living where the need is. Going to the grassroots and relating with the people that you feel they need something. It's obvious, okay, there's no water here. They go to the stream, like his example. They need a borehole, okay. I'm sure they'll be excited when we get a borehole. But alas, they're not. So it still boils down to that interaction, continuous one, not a one-off or based on assumption of a need that is seen continuously, because it might change, or you might hear something that would trigger, okay, oh, you guys go to the stream. What do you do? What if we do this for you? They will tell you, oh, that means you will be fetching water here. What does that mean? Explain to them. Well, that would be nice, but we actually also like the fact that we walk to the stream to discuss about this. Okay, should we, how about putting the borehole closer to the stream so you can still walk there? Does it help? So things like that. And I strongly believe that you get to the root of the problem. You can't really change people's minds when it comes to what it is you are intending to give them or what you feel they should receive with joy. You can only do your best, but make sure your gift adds value, and to do that, really deep and continuous engagement over the course of time before the actual act.
Okay.
Please, can I add an experience?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I remember, this is personal experience. When the branch of the church I lead, we got to a particular community, I don't need to mention it. One of the earliest things we did was to visit the Baale of that community. The man said to us openly that this will be the first church that will do this. And I said to my people, regardless of what you think you are, these people have been here before us, so to speak, are the owners of the community. We are coming into their community. Let's go and officially introduce ourselves to that. I can tell you just that simple act. Of course, we went with a small gift and all of that. What that translated to in terms of relationship and connection over the period. A lot of things will be happening. They will say, don't go to that particular place. They will be placing demands on other people, do this, do this. I remember there was a meeting we were to have. They said, no, that kind of meeting, because of the timing and all of that, cannot hold and all of that. We just walked up to Bale to say, we got to hear that things like this don't happen. We really want to operate with you and be sure, but I should mention to you, is this something that you probably want to give us a waiver for? He said, no, when we talk, it's not about people like you. We were all shocked. So that engagement shouldn't be at the point you want something or you want to do something.
Absolutely.
If you're in a community, please engage that community as much as you can. You know, you were talking about sometimes some of the indigenes live there. I agree with what she just said. It's so easy for all of us to forget where we're coming from. Immediately you have a bit of comfort. Believe me, it's so easy. And you'll be using your current level to estimate the people. We had the president in this nation who said, I'm just getting to know, it was almost at the end of this term when he said, I'm just getting to know the price of kerosene. And purportedly at that time, he was doubling as the minister of petroleum. I'm sure you know the person I'm talking about. I don't need to mention it. He said, I'm just getting to know, almost at the tail end of his term. Why? He doesn't use kerosene. It's not a day-to-day thing for him. So sometimes there is that wide disconnect between the up and the down. And oftentimes the people down, they see it. And they are waiting for you the time when you think or when they sense you need them. They also want to show to you that we want to tell you how important we are.
Well, madam, you talked about sustainability earlier. And it's a major topic. There are 17 sustainable development goals. And I know that there is an award in Nigeria called a social, SERAS, I do not remember the exact term, Social Enterprise and Responsibility Awards. Okay. That's what it is. So essentially saying corporations who get involved in the different communities where they operate, their host communities, whether immediately or remotely, they have a way of intervening in their lives in various sectors, gender, electricity supply, and all those things. And they get reportage, and to a large extent, it does a lot for their PR and all. So in terms of engineering sustainability projects, and we've talked about the place of communities here, one of the things that I consider critical here now is a word you used the other time, weaponized poverty. Now, in the rural communities, they have challenges. And, corporations will go there to try to intervene in one way or the other. In terms of receiving from them, the rural community dwellers and all, sometimes there is division in the communities. We referenced that earlier.
Absolutely.
There is division in the communities. There is the dichotomy between the leadership of the community and the followership in the community. Sometimes it's even among the leadership that we have these divisions.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But the corporation, the company, the institution, they want to give. What are the options?
First and foremost, the corporation, it speaks to their strategy when it comes to giving. And if sustainability is part of your giving, that's one thing. Then what kind of project do you want to do within the community? We've talked about relating with them so that you know the kind of project. Don't assume when you are about to get there. Engage the people, relate with the people over time, and then agree on a project. Because by and large, there will be a general consensus. If there isn't, it would frustrate their giving. It would frustrate the sustainability of their gift. So, and that's why this should be done over time. If you decide to just come and you say, this is the time I need to do it so that I will get my reports done, it will be some sort of greenwashing. You are just coming to take pictures with them and then you just go away. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't hold water. So over time, you relate with them. We've talked about that. We've hammered on that. You get the project. If the community is not coming to a consensus, Nigeria has over 200 million people, so many communities. I believe those organizations should go to where they can be received, their gifts can be received, and something they can actually sustain within that community and ensure that that gift is not, you just don't come and do it and walk away, take pictures, and that's what have you. That you engage them, include the people. I believe in inclusion. Once you include the people, it becomes more sustainable. They're able to take care of that. You teach them also advocacy. There's a place for advocacy. Because at the end of the day, we are controlled by the intangible, which is the mind. And if you do not, as an organization, have a strategy for advocacy for the gift that you want to bring, at the end of the day, it might just be one of those things and it dies down, or it's a failed project or what have you. So speak to the mind of the people, get their buy-in, and ensure that you are doing what they want and not just what you think they need.
Okay. Pastor. Now, I called you pastor.
Deliberately.
Because that's the direction of this conversation. Most times, people have this mindset that pastors only receive. And I'm talking about the clergy generally. But for this particular season, Christmas season, it's about pastors because it's more of a Christian religious thing. Now, there are those that I remember seeing the video of a pastor, I think in South Africa, who says, if you've not given to your parents, don't give to me. Now, there are those who are also, segments in different communities who believe that, they need to raise the stakes for their clergy to give to the prophet. What belongs to the prophet, so to speak, and all those things. And a lot of that is, happening already and is still happening. But these people who give to their pastors, so to speak, permit me, I'm
please
so,
go ahead.
So many of them have this ideology that, they in my village, they are voodoo practitioners, and witches and wizards. So giving to them is like giving them money to destroy my life and all those things. So let me just give to the spiritual so that the spiritual can take care of the physical and all those things. How do you react?
When God said, my people perish, how did he end it? Not because they're not praying, not because they're not going to church, not because they are not doing so many things, just for one reason, for lack of knowledge. Before we came on, Clara and I were having a discussion.
Gloria.
Sorry, Gloria. I'm so sorry, please.
Right.
We could take you to court for that.
Sincerely, I apologize. We're having a discussion, and there was something she said about what she's doing that got me excited. She said, once in a while, we organize listening conference. I said, I've not heard something like that before. Where all you just do is to sit down, let people actually unbundle who they are to you. Then you can know how best to help them. If a man has not really understood who this God that you say you serve is, you can't serve him rightly. We're told we're created in the image and the likeness of God. Those two words are powerful. The image talks about the nature of God. The likeness talks about his functionality, how he operates. So, if this God that is a net giver, that's the way I always like to describe him, is a net giver, not a net taker. Is the one who created you in his image and in his likeness. It will always be your delight to give. In fact, to be your second nature. Because that is who he is. And then, I go further to teach in church that, let's even assume your mother is a witch. Let's assume that you are right to say that mother that gave birth to you is actually a witch. I said, unfortunately, when the Bible says we should honor them, it didn't put any adjective before it.
Except.
No except. No what kind of mother. No what kind of father. That's also another side. Then another side is the side of the supremacy of light over darkness. If you have that understanding that where I am standing within the framework of light. Even if there is this ABCD that we talk about, they no longer have authority over me by virtue of who I am and where I am standing. Some of these matters you are raising will not even come up at all. Now, let's eat it directly. The scripture does not forbid you to honor your pastor. But I say to married couple, for instance, that if the honor you give to your husband is not almost commensurate with what you give to your pastor, you are an hypocrite. Therefore, even when it comes to giving, the scripture is so explicit about what categories of people, most of the time, if not all of the time, should get our attention when it comes to subject of giving. Nothing is wrong with giving to your pastor. I'm a pastor. I also have a pastor that I also give to, because there's that dimension also clearly spelled out in the scripture. But one does not take the place of the other. When I'm meant to be a blessing to someone who is in pain and agony, and I say because that person is a witch or wizard, if I give to him, he might use whatever I've given to him to go and do something. And I say, instead, let me give it to my pastor. You are mixing things up. And everything has its place, and a place for everything. Now, the truth of the matter is this. A lot of those people that you are talking about, let me give to the pastor. I can bet you, I've been a church person almost all my life. Apart from wanting to give to the pastor, there is something driving them. And that is transactional. Which is, if I give X amount, we are almost turning God to ATM. If I give him X, within so period, I should get XY back. God blesses when we give, but it's not on the platform of transaction. You can't begin to give him terms. I have done this, you must do this. I always say,
You always say?
I always say that God is not your classmate. You can't order him around. So it's a function of who is teaching you, who is your pastor, who is teaching you, and what exactly are they teaching you. And let me say this finally. I say to every believer, please make the Bible your standard of living or your standard for life. And I'm bold enough to always say to the people I lead, the day I ask you to do something that cannot be established in the scriptures and that you have also not seen me practice, don't do it. But the question is, how many of us can say that?
Okay. You sound like you want to say a thing or two to that.
Well, like he said, and I think it brings us back to the issue of motive and whether your giving is transactional. Why are you giving? To get something in return? And who says what you are giving is going to come back in that way you are thinking you'd get it?
That's right.
For example, let me give to my pastor so that I'll be protected. Who says, like you said, God is not your classmate, you can't order him around. You do not know, because, okay, people use it. I think this I don't know if it's a song or it's in the scripture, pastor, correct me. Give and it will come back to you, good measure, pressed down, shaking together. And it's in the scripture,
yes.
Running over, shall men give unto you and all that. That is not a kalo machine that you are bringing something to the pastor, so you are going to get this thing back in return. You just give. You just give. And sometimes you are hit hard by, let me even use myself as an example so it's not arbitrary. I got called yesterday to come to Channels TV. I don't know whether it's something I gave or something I did or someone I just got called to come and talk on this show. And who knows, is it for my giving or is it just because it's a favor? So just give and don't have anything transactional in your mind. It still boils down to motive.
So as we wrap this up now in about 2 minutes, let's give some guidance to this motive thing. We've talked largely about motives.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about the motive for giving, let me begin with you, Gloria. When we talk about the motive for giving, what should be the motive? We call it the season of love. There should be no season for love. You know, pastors
every
preach
day,
that
every day
all the
should be.
time. But this is like, as someone said earlier, like a kind of climax for the season of giving, especially in Nigeria. In other parts of the world, in some other countries, it may not be, Christmas may not be as significant in some other countries as it is here.
Yeah.
But for us, in this country, in terms of motive, how should people coin or curl this motive on their minds?
You can learn something, you can unlearn, you can also relearn. So I say this to say that if your motive has always been transactional, you need to unlearn it. You need to start giving from a place of love. you need to start giving without expecting to receive. Because if you are giving to unexpected, sometimes you can give and you don't get a thank you. Something as this, as an act of gratitude, or even just a mention of thank you. It has happened to me. You give someone something and even thank you doesn't come. You feel it, but you now say to yourself, why did you give? Maybe that even happened to touch on your motive. Did you give it to receive a thank you? Or you gave it from a place of love? So you need to unlearn. If your giving has always been transactional, you need to unlearn that. And you need to now learn that your giving should just be freely from a place of love and not even expecting anything in return.
Love is a very precious, valuable commodity.
Absolutely.
I checked from scriptures and I found out that in that love chapter, there are 16 characteristics of love.
That's right.
Yes.
Guess what? The number one is patience. So,
Oh, God.
okay, sounds like you want to say that. We have about 30 seconds for you.
Now, immediately you hit that, you know why I started laughing?
Absolutely.
Is because that negates the kind of message my generation wants to hear. Okay? Because we're in a season of instant passport photograph, instant coffee, instant this, instant that. So even when I say I'm expressing love to someone, somewhere within my heart, I'm also expecting something to happen almost immediately in return as an evidence that I've done something right. I think we should all get back to that scripture you are talking about, and that's Hebrews chapter 13.
First Corinthians 13.
Sorry, 1 Corinthians 13.
1 to 13.
Thank you. Thank God I'm surrounded with people who could. 1 Corinthians 13.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you look at those values and virtues of love, you will discover that a lot of times what we call love is not love.
Absolutely.
The Bible talks about things like love, consider the other person. All right? It's not about me, I, and myself. So, as I'm planning for this season, let's assume I'm planning for my family. How will my driver and his family also fare in this season?
I think I've started the engine of the pastor. You just have to take it away now. I'm really sorry.
So, all I would just say is that at the end of the day, really, this should not be a seasonal thing. It should be a lifestyle. When it becomes a lifestyle, it is not a struggle to do, and the perspective will be right, the motive will be right, and you will just discover that we are all contributing to building a healthy society where everybody is considerate and is fair and just in the way we relate with other people.
We began by saying that it's all too easy to get so caught up in the good feelings. And we've just recognized now, in closing this discussion, that love has little or nothing to do with feelings at all, but it does create good feelings.
Absolutely.
We have to thank you very much for being here. Gloria Adaba is a personal development coach. Thank you so much for your time and your contributions today. As well as Pastor Abiodun Bamidele, the Leader's Place Word Assembly. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us
this morning.
Thank you for having us.
We'll close out with this lovely song, and we'll be here again next week on Christmas Day. My name is Ayo Makide. Take care.